So I've been told that you guys are maintaining a journal. So just fill this out and write it. And also not just that, any point, any day, you can just take this worksheet and you can start filling it out. So self-esteem is all about asking yourself questions to understand yourself better. So these sentences will help you guide yourself and understand how you feel about yourself that day. And if you're having any negative emotions, for example, you can see over here, I had a negative thought about myself when, please write it down. And then the immediate next question is a different thought I can have next time is. So after that situation is over, how else could you have gone about it? So you will get to have so many alternatives and you can write it down and it will be a good exercise for you. So I will pass this on after your class is over. Okay, now we'll just see a small video. Uh,
Do you ever look at the lives of people around you and say,
can someone confirm if the audio is clear?
Yes, ma'am, it's clear.
Okay, super. Okay, then I'll play it.
man, I wish that was me? You know you do. Everybody does. But I bet you never compared yourself to me. Haven't heard of me? I do have my own TV show, In the Middle of the Night. When I started Seinfeld, I'm not. And yet, I'm a pretty happy guy. Here's why. I stopped comparing myself to other people. Seriously, that's the whole trick. Here's what I mean. If my happiness were based on being the biggest comedian in the business, I'd be mad at whoever was getting more Netflix specials than me. I have zero. If it were based on having the best TV ratings, I'd be mad at Jimmy Fallon. He beats me every night. And if it were based on being rich, I'd be mad at a lot of people. And even if I were rich, really rich, like number 10 on the Forbes 400 rich, I'd be mad that there were 9 other people richer than me. It never ends. Comparing yourself to others creates a totally unrealistic measure for what constitutes success. And I know, because the entertainment business is all about unrealistic expectations. All through my career, I'd meet with satisfied customers after my shows, and they'd say, "Hey, you're good. Maybe someday you'll be successful like Jerry Seinfeld." He's the measure of success? The top guy? When someone tells you they're a doctor, you don't say, "Well, maybe someday you'll cure a disease and save millions of lives, just like Jonas Salk did for polio." Or a lawyer, "Oh, wow, so what's your ultimate goal? The Supreme Court?" Do you see how crazy that sounds? Professional success is about making a living, pursuing excellence, and finding meaning in what you do. When I first started doing stand-up, I was a nobody. It took more than a decade playing in front of tuned-out crowds before it started paying the bills. 10 years is a lot of time to tell jokes for no money to people who aren't laughing. In those days, I spent a lot of time thinking about the comedians I admired, the guys at the top. I wanted those big sold-out houses I wasn't playing, the big paydays I wasn't making, the TV specials I wasn't doing. And not just their success, their talent. I'd look at comics like George Carlin, Robin Williams, and Louis C.K. They were all able to turn their dark, personal struggles into brilliant comedy. I envy their talent, but I wouldn't want the dark personal struggles that went along with it. If you don't factor in everything about whoever you're comparing yourself to, you're playing a sort of mix and match game that doesn't exist in the real world. Here's one of life's little truths. Everyone is a package deal. You can't view one element of someone else's life in isolation. That's cheating. You can't say, "I want Louis C.K.'s money and fame, Jay Leno's car collection, and Tom Shalhoub's wife and kids." That person doesn't exist. If he did, he'd be pretty cool. I would definitely want to hang with him. Everyone has pain in their lives. Think of anybody who you know really well. You know the awful stuff they've had to deal with, the demons they hate. How many dead rock stars, movie stars, and yes, comedians does it take to convince us all that everyone's life is hard? Face it, you really don't want someone else's life. You want your own life, only better. But that's the thing. You can make your life better by not doing something. Comparing yourself to other people. Back when I was a nobody, I wanted to sell out the biggest venues and have a primetime TV show with millions of viewers. Now I sell out small venues, and I'm on in the middle of the night with 500,000 viewers. And I appreciate every one of them. I guess when I compare myself now to myself then, I'm doing okay. You should try it. I'm Tom Shalhoub for Prager University.
Okay, so what are your thoughts after watching the video? There's some key point that he's trying to make. You can put it in short sentences on the chat. Or if someone would like to unmute and speak also, please go ahead.
When we compare others with ourselves, that's when we feel bad about ourselves. Like we feel that we lack something. So we should stop comparing ourselves with successful people and try to live our own lives. Because when we stop comparing ourselves with others, we find happiness in what little things we do.
Good one, Jesslyn. Your last part I couldn't hear because I think there was some network problem, but what you were saying, I got the gist of it and it's entirely true. Yeah, yeah. About everything. That's very true. And the important thing is that you always compare yourself to the person you were in the past. I mean, if you're doing better, so that's all that matters. That is what this person is trying to make a point about. And why is this especially important for self-esteem? Anybody? If you compare yourself to others, it's going to impact your self-esteem negatively. So it's very important that we don't indulge in that habit. And also, you know, in especially for people our age, it's very kind of difficult for us to stay away from comparing because there's a lot of things that we see every day on social media. Somebody's doing this, somebody's doing that. Even if we try our best to, sometimes we can't help but have a thought, but always try refraining from it. As long as you're doing, as long as you're justifying to yourself about what you're doing, it's more than enough. So with that, we'll move on. Okay, so now I'm coming to the concept of self. So under this, there are three categories. One is ideal self, the other is self-image, and the last one is self-esteem. So I would like you to do this. I'll give you 3 minutes. Just write these three things for yourself. I'll explain what each of it is right now. So ideal self is someone who you would like to be, like some particular thing. Like for example, I'm Kripa. So in the future, how would I like future Kripa to be like? What are the qualities that I wish I can develop? So that is your ideal self. Self-image is how you see yourself right now. Currently, when you think about yourself, what are the qualities you think you possess? Who do you see yourself as? That's your self-image. Self-esteem is how much you accept yourself for the person you are right now. So these three things, is it clear? If anybody wants an explanation again, I can repeat it. Or you guys will go ahead and write about this. Yeah, sure, Jesslyn. So ideal self is yourself in the future who you would like to be like. What are the qualities that you wish to see in yourself? Future as in it doesn't have to be very far away or something. Can be even as short as tomorrow. Who do you like yourself to be? That's your ideal self. Self-image is how you see yourself right now. And self-esteem, how much of yourself do you accept? So for example, if I'm going to just take a very random parameter for myself, let's say I'm taking fitness for me as an example. So in the ideal self, I would like to be very strong. I would like to be very fit. I wish Krupa can exercise more and be super fit. That's my ideal self. Self-image, currently I don't do any of that. I mean, I do, but I don't do as much as I should. So that's how I see myself right now with respect to that. Self-esteem is how much I accept myself. So it's that I agree, I accept that, I need to improve on this and I should start putting work on it. So that's my self-esteem with respect to this. But you can write more, general things about yourself, about confidence or about patience, anything that you wish to see in your ideal self. I'll just give you 3 minutes. Just write this out. I'll not be asking you to share it because this is something that's personal. I just want you to write it down for your benefit. So 10:14, we'll get back at 10:17. So please write this down, these 3 parameters for yourself. Parvati, you're unmuted, but I would like to listen to what you're singing. Okay, so I hope all of you have written down. So just all of the self-esteem is all about, like having a conversation with yourself, how you feel about yourself. So keep doing that, and I think it should be good. So with that, we'll move on to one more video.
Are you feeling overwhelmed from work? Struggling to stay on top of all your classes? Maybe everything is happening all at once. They say that when it rains, it pours. When you're feeling low, it's easy to convince yourself to stay there. After all, how can you fall when you're already on the ground? Nevertheless, your heart wants to heal, so give it what it wants. Help yourself get back on your feet with these 5 self-care tips when you're feeling broken. 1. Step outside for some fresh air. Our thoughts can be even louder than the ruckus of busy cities. Whether you're still a student in school or constantly work in front of a computer, it's easy to feel congested by deadlines, projects, and never-ending tasks. Make use of your mornings, lunch breaks, and evenings when you're off the clock to step outside for walks. This will help clear your head and improve your mood. In Japan, going for walks in the woods is called Shinrin-yoku, which means taking in the atmosphere of the forest. In one study at Kyoto University, researchers discovered that the scent of fresh pine helps reduce one's levels of anxiety and depression. Spending time outdoors also helps improve our concentration. We aren't meant to experience life in stuffy bubbles. Even if you can't step outside right away, crack open a window when you can and allow nature to heal you. 2. Take a nap. When we don't get enough sleep, our moods can take a turn for the worse and spiral down into an endless abyss. If you're feeling cranky from exhaustion, take some time, even if it's just half an hour, to curl up on the couch and close your eyes. There's no shame in closing the curtains, flicking off the lights, and allowing yourself to recharge. Once you wake up, you'll feel better rested, and you'll make up for lost time by carrying out your daily tasks with a fresh and sharp mind. 3. Allow yourself to be ordinary. We are all perfectly imperfect. Take a break from using Instagram filters and Facebook posts that show your life only at its best. Social media is a place where we can share our favorite moments with others, but it has also become a platform where people feel pressured to compete with others. Sometimes it feels more like a beauty pageant instead of a second home. You don't owe anyone a performance. Your sense of self is worth more than a digitalized reputation. Embrace your flaws and allow yourself to be average. Simple and sincere is always better. 4. Clean and give your space a makeover. Cleaning doesn't have to be overly excessive to make a difference. Whether it means organizing your bookshelf or clipping your favorite photos onto the wall, changes, big or small, can enhance the atmosphere. After all, you spend a lot of time in your space. Giving it some love and attention can go a long way. 5. Reach out and tell someone about what you've been going through. Feeling down often leads to shutting down. We fear burdening others, and as this develops into a habit, we suffer silently, making it harder to heal. Don't feel ashamed about your struggles. Sometimes you just need someone to hear your story. You'd be surprised with how much people understand you. As a bonus, also end up strengthening your relationships.
Okay, so any thoughts after watching the video? Anything that was uh, resonating with you?
I'm cleaning. I can totally
Oh,
relate
nice.
with cleaning. When I feel down, I always
Oh,
clean my bedroom and my bookshelves.
Oh, that's really nice. Your parents must be really happy, no? Because the house is also clean.
Yeah, actually, when I feel very stressed out, I actually start cleaning something or the other. So I like to pile up the dishes, and then I only clean the dishes at the evening or the night, because that's when I can like reflect on my thoughts, and as well at the same time I can clean. So both happens at one time, like de-stress.
That's really nice, Jesslyn. You're in fact very right. I mean, cleaning is something that's a very personal, relaxing time because you have that me time, right? It's completely yourself, and you can think, and it's definitely a way to de-stress. So I'm glad that you're doing it. Anything that makes any of you think and de-stress yourself, go for it. Lakshmi says that nature really does help. Very true. I mean, um, especially right now in the current situation, I think that, because all of us are sitting in front of the laptop or the phone for a long time, even if you step out for 5 minutes and if you take a walk, it's really helpful. So I'm glad that you guys are all doing this. And if any of you are you know, uh, stressed out or anything, I hope you guys follow this. And also, please always make sure that you stay connected. I know it's a difficult time for us right now, but if you can talk to your friends at least for 5 minutes in a day, I think that makes a huge difference, right? So I'm glad that you guys are doing it. And now we'll move on to learning mindset. So Alia says, adding to the point, I like to cook. That's really nice, Alia. That's amazing. When I'm stressed out, that's good. I'm glad that you're doing it. Anything that makes you feel, that makes you think about yourself and while also doing something, any activity that you enjoy, it's really great. So yeah. Now with this, we'll move on to learning my mindset, and I'll hand over to Vaishnavi again. So yeah, Vaish, you can take over.
Okay, thank you, Kripa. So we'll be talking about learning mindset. So why is this that this type of mindset is very important, or having a particular type of mindset itself contributes a lot to our daily activities and behaviors? So we know that mind is where everything is in control, and based on our mindset, we can, like change our perspective and outlook on life itself. So we'll be talking about learning mindset now. Kripa, next slide. Okay, so mindset can be defined into two types. One is the learning mindset, and the other is the fixed. So, like the name suggests, learning mindset is something where we have an open mind, where we are open to challenges and new opportunities. We can embrace learning, and we can also we are doing all this to better ourselves. So, on the contrary, a fixed mindset also has like a person who's very close-minded, who's not very open to learning, who like trying new things or accepting that they need to learn more stuff hurts their ego, and it keeps holding themselves back, because that only learning and improvement happens once we accept that we need to step out of our comfort zone and then try new stuff and learn new things. So when we don't do that, we are limiting ourselves. We think that what we already know and what we've already gained is enough, but that is not a fact. So we know that the world around us is constantly changing and it is very dynamic. So it is very, very important and critical for us to keep learning and keep our minds open to change as it is. So what happens when we stop learning or stop opening ourselves to new opportunities or challenges? We just stay where we are. So the world starts moving on around us and we are left behind. So that is not what we are here to learn. So, what do you guys like think when you know, when think of a learning mindset? What comes to your mind? You can apply it to your own life, like your classes or your exams, assignments, or your previous employment, anything. You can just apply it to your life and then say a few words. What is a learning mindset to you?
Ma'am, I think to work for what you actually deserve for. If you are just targeting something or if you want something, just work for it. Work for it. Don't be a lip service. Don't make it a lip service. Just go for it and give your 100% and never give up in that, because you may be not successful in 100 times, but may be successful in 110 or 120 times, but just go for
Yes.
it, because if you really desire for it, when you get that final outcome, you will be definitely happy.
Yeah, exactly. You're very right, Alia. Like, we have to keep challenging ourselves. Like, if you want something, you have to work for it, no matter like whether you know that you can do it or not. You just have to give it a try. Like, it's called like looking at your challenges as opportunities. Like, unless and until you try, you won't know whether you can or cannot do it. And so like you have to like step out of that mindset, like you said, that 100% you have to work hard for whatever you want. You shouldn't be fixed on the aspect that whether you are capable of doing it or not, or whether you want to do it or not, or like whether what others will say. All other aspects are like very completely unnecessary for us. Yes, go ahead, Lakshmi.
Ma'am, I think learning mindset should be like you should be willing to ask your doubt if you didn't get to the point, or if you feel confused, you should bring up yourself to ask doubts. I think that should be a learning mindset.
Yeah, very good, very good. That is a main aspect of this learning mindset. Like you have to accept that you don't know something. Like you that might be something or the other you can learn from everybody else. It is not as if like you know everything. So, like the more you ask and more you learn, then the more you gain. So that is 100% right. So this is why we feel that learning is very important, and having a fixed mindset should be avoided at all costs. I'll be just giving you a small quiz in order to assess what type of mindset you guys are having right now. So this is just a very small quiz. Just take you a few seconds and it will give you the result at the end. So complete the quiz and come back here. We'll discuss. Are you guys done? It won't be taking you more than 1 minute actually. Okay, great. So you must have gotten results about your mindset, whether you're like on the powerhouse of growth mindset, or whether you're in between two of it, or whether you need some more boost to go and get there. So, like, how many people got that you are a powerhouse of growth mindset? Did you guys answer properly? So I think that most of you guys would be a powerhouse of growth mindset here, as far as I can see. Okay, that's great, Jesslyn. So based on the questions that the quiz asked you, you have like an idea about how to assess yourself and your blind spots that you're missing out. So that must be like a good way of guessing whether you have a whether you need to improve upon. So this is why we needed this mindset. Yeah, we can get there. It is learning is still a process, right, Surya Prabha? So like we need to assess ourselves. We need to see that where we are lacking, or like I don't want to call it lacking. I just want to see that we can have a very informed decision to take that whether where we need to focus on to get a learning mindset. So elaborate on this further. Kripa, next slide. Okay, so now we'll just see a small video about the growth mindset.
Here are two seeds, both planted on the same day, in the same soil, in the same garden bed. One is very curious, full of life, and ready to grow as tall as it can. The other is filled with fear. What if the sun is too strong and burns my leaves once I grow, it thinks. Or what if a beast eats my tender sprouts? No way, not a chance I am leaving my shell. So, it remains still and stagnant, rigid in its place. The brave seed feels the heat of the sun above and starts to push hard out of its shell. Sure, it has doubts about reaching the outside world, but its curiosity is stronger than anything. I want to see all the living creatures of this garden, it thinks. I can't wait to feel the morning dewdrops on my leaves. The little seed keeps pushing until a single sprout comes out. It grows and grows through sunny, warm days. It even grows through colder, stormy days, because the brave seed knows that the sun will always return. Throughout life, you will have moments when you feel like either one of these seeds. The way we see the world around us and how we behave towards life is called our mindset. We can choose to have a fixed mindset or to have a growth mindset. When you have a fixed mindset, things can seem too hard. Negative thoughts might cloud your mind and you start to give up easily. I can't do this. You may believe that if you are not good at something, then you may well be. I'm just born this way. The obstacles you face can hold you back, and you begin avoiding challenges. What's the point of trying? Just like the fearful seed. However, you can always choose to have a growth mindset. A growth mindset helps you believe that your goals are within reach with effort and perseverance. Life is a great big adventure. It shows you that failure is a normal part of your journey. The obstacles you encounter will only make you stronger. Challenges and mistakes help me learn. You'll enjoy the challenges you face and become more resilient. I want to become my best self, just like the brave seed. Fear is a natural emotion. We all experience it, and it can make changing your mindset difficult. The important thing is to try. So here are some tips to switch on your growth mindset. Perfection does not exist. Aiming for perfection is like running a race without a finishing line. Trying to achieve it will only exhaust you. When negative thoughts fill your head, you can turn them around by simply adding "yet" at the end. See challenges as adventures. They will make you more resilient and can open new worlds. If you work hard, you will see progress. Don't worry about mistakes. They are a part of life, and we can learn from them. The good news is, the sun always comes out after a storm. By having a growth mindset, you might even find that a little rain won't bother you much at all.
So you can watch the video. What can you infer from this? There were a lot of stuff that were really, appealing to us, and the format of the video was also like very kindergartenish, and we must have really felt refreshing and nostalgic because of the video. So, what did you guys take away from this video?
Ma'am, I think fear always stands as an obstacle for our growth. So
Yeah,
just make
exactly.
your fear or your negative side or your limitation as your strength. And challenges every day with ourselves to bring the best out of us rather than competing with others, so that we can at least maintain a peaceful life throughout our life rather than competing
Yeah.
with others. And just make your negative sides or your negative thoughts or your ego, whatever it is, just keep it aside and just try to grow ourselves rather than just living in a small circle or living in a small world. Just open up, I think.
Yeah, you're very right. Yeah, you're very right. Yeah, like all of the stuff you covered up on most of the points that was said in the video, and everything that you said is very, very right. Like we know that most of the time, when we look back on certain events in our life, we can notice that only we fear was the only obstacle that was holding us from doing like many things that we wanted to do. Like at that moment, that fear would have been very crippling, and we would have thought that okay, like why do we have to go and try this? It's going to be embarrassing, or like I don't want to go through this and all that stuff. But later on, when we look back, we can realize that it was a very small, that fear was a very small aspect compared to the experience that you could have had when if you had overcome it and tried it at least. And the fear of failure. Like, nothing is perfecting. There is no perfection. You have to take up new challenges and work hard to achieve it. Fear of failure. And because hard work perceives very good, that you're 100% correct, Jesslyn. Like, yes, exactly. Like, fear of failure is like, we shouldn't be holding ourselves back because of fear of failure. Like, imagine like how many times like we would have thought that come on, we are not going to like do it, we are not good enough for this, or like how it's not really a fact that I can succeed in this. That these are the thoughts that go in our mind, like self-depreciating thoughts and all this stuff. But we don't actually know for a fact whether we can or cannot do it unless we do it. So like fear of failure, like once you get a failure, like we know that at that moment we'll be like it will be as if like we fell in a pit or somebody punched us in the gut or something like that. But as you try to change your mindset to look beyond that failure, you can start looking at it in an optimistic way. Like you can, there are a lot of takeaways from failure, much more than you can get it from a success. Like you, if you have a success, you think that whatever you did to get that success is right, even though all the steps that you take might have had minor flaws. But in a failure, you can learn to look back and see that okay, what we did was wrong or what we need to learn from it. So that is why like failure is very important for a learning mindset, or the aspect of your perspective of looking at failures. Yeah, Alia, if the sunset happens next day, there will definitely be sunrise. Yeah, and always hope for the sunrise and go forward even if you fail. Yeah, at least we made an effort. Yeah, exactly. You're really, really correct. Like the effort is all that matters. Like, come on, like you have to be satisfied with your actions. You have to be satisfied with what you tried and what you like you went forward with. Like achieving it or not achieving it is the secondary factor. And I think that most of it is for the world, whether we succeed it or not. For us, the effort is what should be mattering, and what you learn from it and how you grow from it. Like, come on, once if you fail the next time, obviously you're going to be giving it a better fight than the last time. So this is what really, really matters, like having an open mindset and looking at everything in an optimistic way rather than taking it just as it is. Okay, so we'll just move on to the next one. Okay, I just have a small activity for you guys. This is about your success reflection. Pick a recent successful event in your life. It can be, however, smaller, very big one. You can trace it back to the decisions that led you to the success. I don't want you thinking about like, what did I do that morning? Like, what did I walk to the office or take a bus or something like that? You have to do something very relevant, decisions that are very relevant, or like, if you wanted to quit your job, like what decision, what made you take that decision? Like, why do you think that you wanted to do that? All those decisions, just write out 2 or 3 major decisions that led you to the success. Inference about like, what did you infer by this decisions? Like, why do you think that you wanted to take that, you had that feelings or thoughts in your mind? Why did it lead you there? For example, if you think that you're not happy in your job, like, why do you think that you were not happy at all? Like, did you want something more, or did you want something different, or did you want to, like, try something new? All these thoughts. And then self-assessment, you have to write down whether you had a growth mindset or a fixed one. And what would you have done differently and why? Okay, so just write down like 5 or 6 points for all of it, as much as you can. Or if you want to keep it short also, you can keep it. I'll give you like 3 or 4 minutes. We can come back and we can discuss. If you have any doubt also, you can ask me regarding this. you guys done or need some more time?
Miss, I don't get it.
Okay, Lakshmi, right? Guys, what you're actually doing is just take a recent successful event in your life. Okay, whichever you consider a success, like if you got a good grade or unexpectedly, like you think that you did your worst during an exam, but you got a good grade. Consider that a successful event. Like you can think about like why did you decide to study much more than you usually study for exams? What made you study more? Or like what was your strategy to studying differently for this exam? Those are the thoughts about it. And inference is that why did you have those thoughts of suddenly doing much more work than you usually do for other exams? And then self-assessment is whether you had a growth or a fixed mindset. You can identify it by now, I think. And what would you have done differently and why? So this is what I want from this. You can keep it as short as possible also. And the event can be however major or however small it is in your life. So I'll just give you 1 more minute. Please try to finish soon. Okay, guys, you must be done by now. Even if you want to introspect much more and if you want some more time, you can take your time later on and you can add it to your journal entry. Because this is much of a reflective action and self-assessment kind of activity. So you might, if you're very immersed in it, and if you need more time, you can just continue it after class and keep it in your journal entry. So we'll have one or two volunteers who are willing to share it right now. Like, what did you infer from it? It might be some sort of help or like a layout for your friends who want to approach this activity. Anyone can share it. Okay. Let's keep it for your journal entry. I think it might be too personal for you, but please don't forget to finish it. Even if you think that this is a bit more tedious, but it is very self-reflective. It might some blind spots in your thinking. Sorry. 1 second. I think Jesslyn wants to share. Jesslyn, you can type it up in the chat, or you can come use your mic and speak up also.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're audible.
So the small thing, like one of the events that happened recently was like I got into writing and I started publishing like small stories on Waterpad. So the thing was that I decided to start writing is because it was one of my dreams from small onwards to just like write and maybe publish a book. But then as I grew
Jesslyn,
up,
you're breaking a bit.
Ma'am, I'll type it. I think that's better.
Yeah, wait 1 second. Okay, sure, go ahead. Okay, Jesslyn started writing stories again. I think that you were writing stories when you were younger, right? And then now you're started writing it again. So you think it is a success. That is really, really great. Start writing stories or poems as it may be, it is a very creative process, and yeah, it opens our mind to new thinking, new thoughts, new approaches and strategies also. And like, that is a very good learning process that you can do with zero to like little to no external input that you need. Like what you write is for you only, and it is your creation. It belongs to you. So that is a really, really good news, Jesslyn. And you can like assess yourself, like what made you start writing again. Like it might have been this lockdown, or during these times you wanted to do something when you were doing it as a kid. So how were your decisions, like other decisions influenced by this? Yeah, exactly. Many of us have a lot of talents and creative abilities when we are a child, and as we grow up, we try to forget it because we are consumed by other things. Yeah, you want to try it before you have to regret it. Yeah. That is really great. You published your story. That is a really good achievement, and you got 4 reads that made you really happy. That is really, really great. Obviously, you have a very good growing mindset, and like you keep pushing yourself outside of your limit. Like for some reason, you might have abandoned your like dreams and everything, but now that the fact that you want to start it again is itself a learning and growth mindset, and you want to try new things. Keep it up, Jesslyn. That I think that we have a lot to learn from this one experience also. And I think that many of us can also try to take up our childhood dreams and childhood hobbies and activities that we had abandoned. And being adults and trying it, we can have a different perspective and test our limits, like we had when we were kids. And now we can see that how much better we can get at it. That is really good news. Thank you so much, Alia. Sorry, Jesslyn, for sharing this. Okay, let's go to the next one.
I think even Alia wanted to share her experience.
Okay, come on, Alia. Are you able to say, like, speak up?
Hello, ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
Yeah,
Is it audible?
yeah,
I thought I
it's
have some
audible.
net issues. That's why I just asked in the chat box.
No, sorry.
Ma'am,
Okay, got,
I'm a
got,
PG
yeah,
student
go ahead.
actually, in Shankara College. So teaching is my
Okay.
dream. It's the profession that I wanted to be in future. But when I joined PG and when our first semester examination was there, but there were so many ups and downs in my personal life. So I was not even able to correctly focus on the exams and all. But still, I just whatever I can do at that situation on my studies, on my exams, on the concentration that I have to do. I have just given my only 10%, but I have done that. And I've written the exams, and obviously I know that I am going to become an utter failure because that was such an hard examination, not only for me but for everyone. And in recent and our second and third semester exams have already completed, and it was so easy for me, and I was so regretful that at least I could have done better on the first semester. So whatever marks you scored on the coming continuous semester, it doesn't matter actually. If you are failing in the first semester, you obviously have to have to lose 1 year, one extra year for your PG examination. So I was in the verge of dropping out of the course, but still I just tried for the consequent 2 semesters. At least I have tried for it. And in April, our first semester examination result have come, and only 2 students have passed in our class, and one is me. And I don't know how it happened, but still I didn't quit, and I never quit. If I am into something, whatever happens, I never quit. And I always keep a growing mindset because I just take up the knowledge from wherever I can, no matter how small or big the other person is. But I just love to hear everyone. I just want to be a good listener actually.
Oh, that is really, really great news, Alia. Like we actually feel really proud of you for, acing your semester exams. And like, like, yeah, we all of us have faced like some hardships in one day, or we keep pushing, like, that is the way to test our strengths. Like in these times of testing times, we act, how we behave, like how we keep our mindset are really an indicator of how strong we are. And you're really strong, Alia, and you must be really proud of yourself. That is really great. And yeah, many of you, I can see that you have a very good growing mindset, and you don't want to stop there. Also, you want to keep pushing, you want to keep learning new stuff. And being a listener is a very, very impactful characteristic, because like you don't know like how many problems you're solving for someone who's close to you, and how much you're gaining knowledge or inference from that experience. Like that is a very good characteristic, and you should cherish that. You're really you must be really proud of yourself, Alia, and so are we. So anyone else, if you want to share, just put it in the chat, or else we can have a small break for now. It was a really good sharing, share set of giving and taking right now, and it was really great. Guys, have just like 5 minutes of break, and then we'll come back for one more activity. We'll meet at 11:05. Okay. Hope all of you are back. Okay, great. We'll start with the next activity. This will be like a problem solving activity. I'll just give you one problem statement. Okay, so I'll just be giving you one problem statement and I'll give you one solution statement for it also. The reason is that you have to think outside the box and come up with a solution other than the one that I've given you. The problem statement is that imagine you're the owner of a cafe that is very, hep spot for hanging out like CCD. The problem is that customers, whoever come and order anything, they'll be getting the Wi-Fi password and the Wi-Fi is free. So what they do is that they come and buy for a minimum amount and then they use the Wi-Fi as long as they can and they hog the seats. And because the seats are limited, you're potentially losing good customers who can spend much more on the cafe. So how will you come up with a solution where where you're able to limit the customer usage time without offending the customers also? So one of the solution is that keep a minimum order amount so that anyone who buys beyond the minimum billing amount are eligible for using the Wi-Fi. And anyone below the billing amount, they can't use the Wi-Fi because, that strategy we are using. So other than this, you guys have to come up with a few solutions. Just take 2 or 3 minutes for this and then we'll discuss about it. Okay, so the you're a cafe owner that gives out free Wi-Fi to all the customers who are actually buying something. So the problem is that when the customer comes and buys for even the minimum amount, you have to give them the Wi-Fi password and Wi-Fi is free. So, and you can't tell them to leave the cafe once they are done with the food also, they'll take offense. So you just have to try to come up with a very tactical way of, increasing the customer turnover so that they don't use the tables for too long and you should not offend the customers also. So the solution I'm giving is that you have like a minimum order amount which is eligible for your Wi-Fi password. For example, like if they set for 500 only, 500 or above only, you're going to give them a Wi-Fi password. Anybody who's spending less than that, they're not eligible for getting the Wi-Fi password. So this is one of the solutions. I'm giving you a solution because I don't want you to repeat the same solution. You have to think outside the box. You have to think any other solutions other than this, which you can come up with, like a strategy for the cafe owner. So this is your problem solving activity. Okay, no problems. Okay, I hope you guys are done or almost done. I would like one or two people to share their answers.
Ma'am, giving a discount coupon for the next visit who uses or purchases above the minimum price.
Okay, but how are they using the Wi-Fi less because of this? Like Jesslyn has given some answers. That is really good. For a particular amount of time, you can limit the Wi-Fi, or you can make them buy a cookie or two if they want. If you want to extend their time, okay, that is good. Like you can give them like an offer, like saying that right in front of, you can say that you can use a Wi-Fi till this amount, and if you want to extend, you can buy a cookie. Okay. For specific days, we can keep the Wi-Fi free. Okay, that is also like a forefront to weaning them off the Wi-Fi. Yeah, good. Two types of Wi-Fi, one for slower speeds, other for having a higher speed. Okay, that is really good. Okay, people who buy more amount gets a discount of a few beverage. Okay. You can encourage people to get more. Okay, rather than tackling the Wi-Fi problem directly, you're tackling the bill amount so that they'll buy more and they end up actually spending more and then eventually using the Wi-Fi. Okay. Okay, Wi-Fi password if only a group of people are coming. Okay, that is also good. Keeping a timeout for Wi-Fi, Surya Prabha. Limit, you can use it only for a limited time. And after that, it will cut. Okay, that is really good. You can set a timer in the Wi-Fi also. Like if one particular IP address is using a Wi-Fi for a more number of time, you can cut it off. That is really good. And Alia saying scratch and win cards who want to use the minimum Wi-Fi. Okay, that is really good. It's just synonymous to the discount. Okay, if two or people are there, they tend to talk and not browse. Okay, that is also a good strategy. Like you can keep the air going on, like and keep them really immersed in the conversation and instead of people using the Wi-Fi alone. Okay, that is really good. All are really good answers actually. Yeah, they're all really good, and you guys are thinking outside the box a lot. And I really liked certain ideas also, like giving them a discount and high and low Wi-Fi. Aditya is saying by making the atmosphere a bit more curious and include books and activities. Yeah, people don't try to look at the phone. Okay. That is really good, like trying to keep them immersed in conversations and books and other activities so that Wi-Fi isn't like the deciding factor for people visiting the cafe. That is really good. Song and other activities like stand-up comedies or keeping people engaged. That is really good. People giving Wi-Fi password or purchasing above a limit. Okay, that was my main solution. So yeah, that is also one of the approach. You can try another combination with that solution also, Vipul. That is really good. All are really good answers. Divide the room into two.
Can I
One for
ask
people
one
who came in.
question to the class,
Yeah, go ahead.
if I may? How about for people who come just to take advantage of the Wi-Fi, like who think of, coming and buying this one cookie and using the Wi-Fi for like 2-3 hours? What would your solution be for such kind of customers? If you guys can speak up also, it'll be really nice.
Yeah, we can have like a proper conversation if you guys, speak up.
Minimum price of cookies much higher, so there won't be any ideal users. I think so.
Okay. Like you're thinking on the same lines of the solution, like having a minimum bill amount. Like if you increase the price of one cookie, then
No, I was trying to say that there is one art cafe in Alua. It's called Pachamama. So there, most of the people come to see the scenic beauties and all that things. Mainly not for eating, but for that purpose. Or one person come, he will sit for I think about evening till evening if he comes in morning. So their strategy, it was so striking for me. The minimum price in the price list, the minimum price for a tea was 100 rupees or something.
okay.
So it will be worth for them at least. Even if one or two
Okay.
people come, it will be worth for them.
Okay, I can understand. Like, you have to give them the amount, the rate that you're potentially losing, also like the opportunity cost that we're losing on potential customers because they're hogging the seat for so long. We can include that in the price too. Yeah, that is really smart. Time limits on browsing key for 15 to 30 minutes. Yeah, that is really good. Like the timed Wi-Fi accessibility, right? That is really good. And divide the room into two. One for people who came in alone is served in the balcony. Others may be inside. Yeah, that is really good. Like, yeah, you can like very discreetly direct them towards the balcony. Others can sit inside who are accessible to the Wi-Fi and others cannot be accessed. That is really good. All the answers are really, really good actually. That's really good going, you guys. You have to appreciate yourself. All of the efforts are really good. You started thinking outside the box, and like once you start thinking outside the box and you start looking outside, you have much more capability or like much more opportunities to look for there. So yeah, you have to keep up this good work. This is amazing. So we'll just carry on with the section. The next one is yeah, we'll just have a small video about the science behind our growth mindset. Okay, we'll just have this.
You would not be here if you weren't interested in learning, and neither would I. But here's something we haven't learned about together. Learning. The ways in which we acquire and retain knowledge, which is the very definition of learning, is really a science in itself. And like any other discipline that involves the study of the human brain, it is practically still in its infancy. Just 20 years ago, most scientists believed that once we reached adulthood, our brains were pretty much fixed. Not that we were incapable of learning anything new exactly, but the assumption was that our brain's development phase was over. And now it's pretty much there to remind our hearts to keep beating and occasionally let us remember where we left our phone. But thanks to huge advances in things like functional brain imaging, we have a clearer picture than ever of how our brains work, and we're beginning to observe some wonderful things. For one, we now know that the process of learning actually alters the structure of our brains at the cellular level. And what's more, it turns out that our brains never stop changing to make room for new information. People often compare the human brain to a computer, but imagine a computer that can actually grow new circuits as it acquires new facts and associations, and you have a much more awesome comparison. This is the gift known as as neural plasticity. You might think of plastic as being stiff and cheap, but in biology, plasticity refers to the capacity of living things to mold themselves to new conditions, and our brains are great at it. For one thing, your brain cells, or neurons, are always changing their connections to one another to meet changing demands. Each of your neurons consists of a central body with spindly dendrites and a long axon stemming from it. The neuron transmits electrochemical signals to other brain cells through its axon and receives signals through its dendrites via connections where the cells meet, called synapses. When you're born, each neuron in your brain has about 2,500 synapses connecting it to other cells. But by the time you're 3 and you've become just a sponge of fascinating new information, like what sound a piggy makes and where your mom's face goes when she hides it behind her hands, you have 6 times as many, up to 15,000 synapses for each neuron in your brain. In this regard, it's kind of true that your brain hits its peak when you're young, because by the time you're an adult, your brain cells have about half as many synapses as when you were 3. But it turns out that's okay, because we now know that synapses just shrink up when they're no longer needed. Like, you know now that pigs go oink and that people still exist when you can't see their faces, so you don't need to keep those connections to remind you. This process of winnowing down unused connections is known as synaptic pruning. Meanwhile, your neurons experience all kinds of new growth as you continue to soak up new information, like how to drive, how to solve for X, and how to get through that one really hard level in your favorite castle smashing game. Here, the key to learning is memory, because you need to retain that information in order to apply it in the future. So your brain cells can change in different ways depending on how long you remember what you've learned. As you stockpile data in your short-term memory, for example, the structure of your existing synapses has been found to change, with more and stronger dendrites growing to reinforce them. So for info that you retain for just a short time, like how to destroy digital castles using rocks and fire, you don't need to sprout whole new connections. Just beefing up the existing ones you've used so far will help you master the game just fine. But when it comes to important stuff like the learning we do at school, or hopefully the stuff you learn here on SciShow, your neurons actually forge entirely new synapses over time as you relearn, re-remember, and reuse the information. This is how your brain builds the long-term memory you need to retain the learning you're doing right now at work and at school and turn it into a lifetime of applied knowledge. So I said it before, and I'll say it again. Take care of your brain, and odds are it'll take care of you. Thanks for watching this SciShow Dose, brought to you by Intel Education.
Okay, so that must have been a really insightful video about how your brain works. So the more you get to know about your brain, the more you know that what your brain needs and how it can change your life. So I'll just go to the next one. Okay, so I'm just going to summarize all the strategies we use to develop a growth mindset. We would have discussed most of it here. So view challenges as opportunities. Don't look at them as hurdles or failures. Keep learning from them. We have to prioritize learning over seeking approval. For any day or any process, seeking approval, that is external validation, is not a long solution. You have to learn to prioritize learning, learn to see how much you're gaining from the process rather than how much people are noticing you. So focus on the process rather than the result. You can keep focusing on the result. Like if you want to reduce weight, you can keep focusing on it. But unless and until you focus on the process, you're going to be really stressed out. You're going to be you're not going to enjoy the process at all. Even after getting the result, you won't see as if you've achieved something. So learn to enjoy the process. So it is going to be, a rearranging one. And cultivate a sense of purpose. Like, why do you want to grow? Why do you want to grow in this particular aspect? Why do you think that you need to learn more stuff on this area? Cultivate a sense of purpose for that. Choose learning well over learning fast. Learning fast is just a quick fix. You're not going to gain anything from it. Learning well is what is going to be really long lasting for you. Learn to accept mistakes and failures. Yes, if you did something wrong, if it is your mistake, learn to accept it so that you can move on and learn from that mistake and you can correct it as soon as possible. Accept constructive criticism, because you cannot criticize yourself when you don't know what you're doing wrong and where you're going wrong. If your friends or family or anybody are giving you constructive criticism, take it in a very optimistic way. Take it also as an opportunity where you can find out about your blind spots or how you can correct it. Cultivate grit. Like I said, that you have to focus on the process, and the end result is not going to be immediate anytime for you. It is going to be long and hard. So unless and until you cultivate grit, you are not going to get there, and it is going to be a really limiting factor for you. And also remember, everything takes time to achieve anything. The greater the achievement you want it to be, the more hard it is going to be for you to achieve it. because anything that comes easy is not going to last long, or it is not going to be much more fruitful for you. So these are the takeaways from this growth mindset. So we'll go to the next one. I think I just have a final activity for you. You don't have to share it here. So this is going to be a journal entry. Like we discussed the success event, you have to write down your recent failure event. Like it can be something that was really devastating, or something you took as a major failure in your life, which was a turning point for you to start assessing all your habits or thinking process. What led you to this failure? Like was it a conscious decision for you to spiral into that failure, or was it just a small mistake? Like how did that small mistake come to be? And how did you feel when these decisions were like influenced by your mindset? Could you recognize that it was your mindset that was wrong, or you could not recognize, or it just happened? All these things you have to make a conscious effort to note it down so that you can identify what actually happened. So you will obviously be reflecting and inferencing from this entry, so that from the next time also, like if you think that your something is wrong with your mindset or your approach or your behavior, you can correct it then and there before it leads to a failure. So this is the end of the growth mindset. We'll be going to the sportivity quotient next. We just have a small presentation regarding the sportivity quotient.
Sorry guys, I'm just having a little bit of a technical issue. Just 2 minutes. Can someone confirm if the screen is visible now?
Yeah, Kripa, it's visible.
Okay, super. So I'll just put it on slideshow. Okay, great. So now we are moving on to the final part of the workshop, which is enhancing sportivity quotient. So I'm sure all of you guys must have heard of being a good sport, taking things in the spirit of the game. What does that mean to you guys? Any thoughts? Anybody? What is being a good sport according to you? Did not get that. Yeah, sure, Jesslyn, I'll repeat it. So you must have heard, no? Be a good sport, take things in the right spirit. So what does all of that mean according to you?
Making the negatives also as taking the negatives also as a positive thing, and always being surrounded around as a positive one, being it us or to be in our other, to be as a towards others, just be as much as positive that you can.
Yeah, good one, Alia. That's true. Taking things in a positive way, right? Surya
And
Prabha
also
says,
very important, and also very important to be surrounded around the positive peoples, because there will be so many.
okay, yeah, that's true. But is it always possible, Alia? I mean, we can't always be around positive people. No, sometimes our situation, even we'll have to be around people who might,
Negativity around us.
yeah. So like it's about, like taking things, even if you're surrounded with negativity, just having like a positive mindset around such people. That is very helpful. What you said is absolutely right. Um, and then Surya Prabha has put being energetic, having a winning mindset, uh, positively saying things. Lakshmi says full of energy. Okay, so we asked the same question to some of the students from IIT, and this is what they told. So same according to similar to what you people were saying, the same thing, being positive and then appreciate others, accepts challenges, things like that. So being a good sport means that even though sometimes situations might not go according to the way we want, in spite of that, having a positive attitude and believing in yourself, that's being a good sport. Okay, so this is the theoretical definition of what being a good sport means. So even though the word has the word itself says sportsmanship, and that is because example of being a good sport is seen in sports itself. You can see that sometimes teams do not win despite putting their best effort. Even in spite of that, how you take that victory, how you react in such situations, that's what defines being a good sport. It doesn't necessarily have to be in games or in sports. It can even be in like in day-to-day situations. So sometimes things might not go in our way, but how you react to that, it makes a world of difference. So there are things like self-control, perseverance, courage, sense of fellowship with one's competitors, gracefulness, all these words that you see on the slide. And why does it say sense of fellowship with one's competitors? So even though you might be competing with someone, if the entire process is fair and good, you have to respect that, whatever result comes out of it. So that's the whole spirit of sportsmanship. So these are two famous examples. The left one, I'm not sure if you all would have seen it, but the right one is very popular. Can you tell me what the incident is, or why is it coming under sportsmanship? Anybody? Okay, so I'll tell you. So the right one is very popular because Faf du Plessis, he had a leg cramp. And you know that in any game, there are medical people who are always there to, attend these kind of situations. Anything goes wrong, immediately they come running to the ground. But you can see that Dhoni has immediately, started helping him out and giving him some sort of massage or something to help him in that situation. It is that mindset to help people in that situation, in whatever kind of, even though if they are in the opponent team or whatever, doing the right thing at any time, that is what sportsmanship is made up of. And on the left side, actually, what you can see is that one girl, you can see she's being carried by two people. So what happened is that she was playing baseball, and to complete a run, she has to go around the entire field. But what happened? She hit it and she forgot to run around. And then she immediately realized and she turned around. And what happened? When she turned around, she tore a ligament in her knee. So then she couldn't move at all. So if because of that, in case if she doesn't complete that run, she'll not score, and that is an important run for her team. So the umpire told that if anybody from her team helps her, then she'll be disqualified. But the opponent team saw that it was a genuine mistake, so they actually carried her and helped her finish the run. Though that would mean that it's going to be a victory for the other team, they still went ahead with it. So these are all examples of sportsmanship. There's so many available. So whenever you get time, you can always look it up. Okay, now this is a little bit of theory. The whole spirit of sportsmanship comes from this theory called social learning theory. This is little in depth. If you guys are interested, you can always look it up. There's a link for this. I'll send that also to you. So you can read it if you're more interested in this. And on the left side is a very famous quote on sportsmanship. I absolutely love it. It's that, it is one man practicing it is much better than 100 people preaching it, which is ironical because right now I'm telling you about sportsmanship. But more than that, if you see somebody else doing, fair play, that is when you get more inspired. Or if you are doing, others will see and get inspired by you. So sportsmanship is always more about action than words. Vaishnavi will be taking over.
Okay, so who more than Captain Cool to talk about sportivity? So whenever we think of sportsmanship or a good sport, the first person who comes to most of our minds is MS Dhoni. So on the left side of the slide, you can see that some of his personal attributes or characteristics which make him such a good sport. And on the right side is certain attributes he brings to the team. Okay, so we can see that as a person, he is very calm and composed, humble. He doesn't get very over emotional. He knows how to handle success, and he's a fair player. So the team, what he contributes is that he has like a healthy attachment to the outcome of the game, and his virtues are much more important to him than his result. He respects the authority, opponents, team members, and himself. Acknowledge a great play made by the opponent. So that is a really, you need some sort of good sportivity quotient to acknowledge a great play by the opponents especially. So MS Dhoni is the epitome of it. So the next one. Okay, so in this slide, we can see that this model just falls down, but she doesn't get really, sour-faced or very, embarrassed because of that. She just laughs it out. She doesn't take it too seriously. She just gets up and she completes her walking. So this is one of a good example of being sportive. We can also see that her fellow models who are following her, they also start and this shows that not only her and her fellow colleagues are also very sportive about it, because it can happen to anyone. And once you laugh it off, we can see that there is not much in it to be embarrassed about. So this is like another example of being a good sport. So the next one. So why is it important to be such a good sport? We have the ability to emphasize on the journey rather than focusing on the outcome. Since it values the journey more, it draws attention to the learning and wisdom gained through the process of getting there, and focus on the bigger picture. And we have the intention of benefiting an entire organization, industry, or a particular discipline from it. And we can be less concerned about how they stack up to others and more interesting into learning more into new realms of personal potential. We can see how potential we are, and person with enhanced sportivity quotient are more concerned about increasing their own potential. They want to learn more, they want to expand their horizons. There's a sense of shared values like perseverance, honor, grit, fairness, and integrity. And these are like something people have in common if you want to be a good sport. Next slide. There's also an assumption that there's only limited amount of success or achievement available out in the world, but that is not true. There is enough amount of success for everybody, and we can build each other up, and you don't have to be egotistic about it. Fostering unhealthy competition diminishes our sportivity quotient. That is exactly true, because you don't have to foster unhealthy competition. There is enough success for everybody here. Even if we have success, everybody else around us also can be very successful. Extremely unhealthy when it's oriented towards tearing others down. It's one thing to be motivated by self-interest, but another thing to start actively sabotaging the performance of others. Exactly, this is not being sportive at all. And we can, at one point or the other, we don't feel that we deserve the success that we have got if we tried through these means. So next one.
You have a 10. Yes, awesome. I'm totally going to win this game. I'm so good. Okay, so it's first to 3, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. So 2 more and I win. All right, I got this. Do you have a 4? Yes, awesome. I'm so good at this game. All right, just 1 more. Okay, I got this. Do you have a 7? Yes, I win. You lose. In your face. Booyah.
Okay, so this is how you should not be you should not rub it in the other's face that you're winning. That is not being a good sport. You have to find a way to be mutually successful in whatever competition or any process that you're going through. So next slide. Kripa.
Yeah, so again, you can see some more examples. This is, a lot of you would have seen Calvin and Hobbes. So this is an example of being a bad sport again. So Calvin, you can see he's lost a game and he cannot take it. He's screaming, I hate this game. I hate the whole world. What a stupid game. I'm sure none of us are going to be like this, but it's about how you take any result, and this is a good example of how you should not take it. So that is there on the left side, and on the right side you have Snoopy peanuts. So that's also another one thing where you can see he's saying I hate losing. So yeah, these are again examples of being a bad sport. Okay, I'm sure a lot of you would have seen The Big Bang Theory. And Sheldon is a famous example for being a bad sport. You can see how he is breaking the entire board and he just cannot take it. So yeah, these are just to show some examples of being a bad sport. And you can see that the name itself is a classic sore loser, and that person cannot accept defeat, makes fun of their opponents, and then for them victory is very personal. They take it very seriously, and it's a matter of showing off and boasting, but that's not healthy, taking things in that spirit. Now, although we discussed examples of being a bad sport, it's also, I think, important to understand why sometimes people are not able to be a good sport. There are definitely reasons for that, and one is childhood experiences and beliefs. A lot of people might have had a lot of pressure while growing up, where they were always expected to be the first or expected to get the best grades or come number one, get the first rank, and all of that. This can actually probably be a reason. And then there's also, in our country, it's very common for parents to compare children with other children, and there's always this never-ending rat race. In school you have to get the top marks, and then you go to college, there you have to get the top marks, and then you go to office again, over there you fight for promotion. So all these things are the reasons why people tend to be a bad sport. But if we look at how Vaishnavi had told, there is enough success for everybody in the world. So everybody is unique, everybody has their strengths. It's important that you recognize, you understand that you have your strengths and you have your weaknesses, and even others too. So it's important you understand that and you move on with life.
Okay, so enhancing your sportivity quotient. Acknowledge your humanness. We don't acknowledge our humanness. We just try to make everything perfect. However, we should accept that we are perfectly imperfect and do not sweat the small things in life. Acceptance that winning and losing are a part and parcel of life. It doesn't actually define you. So when we give feedback or criticism, we have to be receptive and open to it rather than being defensive. And letting go. Not everything is in your control. So once we accept that this is our stress levels will automatically drop and sportivity in quotient will also increase. Expanding the pie. We believe that there is enough for everyone and you don't actually have to need to pull anybody down or sabotage anyone to get what you think that you deserve. Next one. Okay. Smile. When we smile at people, even during the most stressful times, it fosters a healthy environment. Like we saw in the example of the model falling down, and in support of her, her colleagues were also smiling and cheering. That gave her a confidence that that it isn't actually embarrassing like she thought it was. So it spoke volumes of her and her colleagues' sportivity quotient. Inspire, like we saw in the social learning theory. Observational learning is also very important in building sportsmanship, and hence a person who has high sportivity quotient should not only practice but also inspire others. Like when we see others encouraging us and being their own self, we are getting inspired, and we also want to be like them. We also want to try being sportive about it. Small gestures. Small gestures like appreciating, cheering, and uplifting others helps building a healthy environment, and in turn helps in enhancing the sportivity quotient also. Enjoy yourself. Take your challenges seriously and yourself lightly. In the end, what matters is how much you enjoy yourself from within, and that automatically makes you more sportive. Next one. Okay. Kripa, you're muted.
Thanks, Vaish. Okay, so now we are into the final part of the workshop. So why all of this is important? We started with self-esteem and then we moved on to learning mindset, and now we are finally at sportivity quotient. So all of these go hand in hand. So if you are going to enjoy the process and if that is going to be given more priority than the outcome, then obviously that would give more meaning in what you're doing. And once you do that, you're able to, once you're doing it because you're enjoying your work, it helps you to enjoy that in others also. Like you would like to see other people and you could learn from them how they are doing a certain thing. You could teach the people around you. And when you're such a person, you become a good sport. And such people are the ones people always look out to for, for help and for as a good leader. And so such people are always an asset wherever they go, even in their organization, in the college, wherever they are the person people look up to. And because of all this, you're going to have a greater sense of fulfillment, and your overall well-being is going to increase. And all of this helps in building really high quality relationships, and that is very important because these days everything comes down to networking and being connected with the right people, reaching out. So when you are someone who can look at things in this way, then that will help you further in your career, in your life, in your personal relationships, in your professional relationships, everywhere. And that, of course, comes down to your self-esteem and self-worth. When you're doing all of these things actively, then that will help increase your self-esteem and self-worth. So that is all that we have. It's all a cycle. So you do one thing or the other thing, and it's not really difficult. Like Vaishnavi had told, even something as simple as smiling in a stressful situation can actually help things to be better. So that's all we have from us. We hope that you guys got something out of this workshop. So yeah, thank you. Oh yeah, finally,
Thank you.
thank you. Before we leave, I have one more thing. So I'll be sending this to you guys through Viji ma'am. So this is an affirmation on how to increase your sportivity quotient. So these are some sentences. Personally, me and Vaishnavi are not a big fan of affirmations, but it has helped a lot of people. So even we are trying to do this, and let's see how it goes. You guys should also try this because it said that the more you say these things, the more you believe in what you're saying, and it manifests into reality. So we'll be sending this across to you, so you guys can also try it out. Try telling these things, and if it works for you, or even if it does not work for you, let us know. So yeah, and yeah, that's it.
Hello, ma'am.
So much, guys. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, somebody wants to say something.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Hello, ma'am. I'm audible now. Is it audible?
Yes, there's Narayanan, right? Yeah, you're audible.
So, ma'am, as we are in the end of the program, I take this opportunity to propose a vote of thanks to those who directly or indirectly contributed the program. Ma'am, we are all excited and we are all happy to have a nice and interactive session. Sir, ma'am, I am very much thankful to spend your valuable time with us. Once again, I am thanking you, ma'am, who made the program very successful with your presence and participation. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Devanaran. That was such a sweet speech, and thank you, everyone. If you guys have any like feedback or any questions, also you can ask us. And you guys were overall a very great audience, very great crowd. You were very interactive, and like you kept us on our toes, and we kept interacting with each other, learning more stuff from you than you from us. And just keep it going. You guys are really great crowd. You're very creative and you're very receptive to anything new. So keep it going. Don't stop anywhere and just keep learning and trying and challenging yourself.
Yeah, seriously, I mean, you guys were very interactive, and that really, made us more excited. And also, like Vaishnavi told, we learned things from you today. So yeah, thank you for being a great audience.
Yeah, finally, thank you once again, Kripa and Vaishnavi and all the students for being here. So, can we end the session? Yeah. Anyone wants to say anything? Fine then. Yeah, see you all. Thank you.
Okay. Stay safe, guys. Have a great time.
Bye, guys.